Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So coming to you today, and I want to go over the range results from the second range trip with the REMESA slash Frankenstein gun. I'm digging the name REMESA though. I gotta admit, whoever came up with that, I know it was somebody that commented that on a previous video. Shout out to whoever you are, because I'm kind of digging the name, the REMESA. So just to go over the specs again on the rifle, this is an AG Composites Privateer stock, best carbon fiber stock on the market, period. Really no argument with that. It is a Rim Arms 700 CDL action that originally, when I bought the CDL, it was chambered in 243 Winchester, and it had the American walnut stock on it. Well, you guys have seen the videos. We tore this thing apart, pulled the barrel off of it, and threaded on a Christensen Arms Mesa barrel, 1 and 8 twist, 6.5 chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. Spun that guy on there. It head spaced properly, which was pretty unbelievable. And then everything went together pretty good after that. And then another note on the stock, this stock was actually made for a different Remington 700. So it has a pretty wide barrel channel up here, so no issues with whether or not the barrel is free floated. And then on top, I've just got a set of Tally, the lightweight Tally rings, and this is the SWFA 2.5 to 10 by 32 scope. This is their ultralight, which I'm a really big fan of. The overall quality of the image through the scope, it isn't as good as something like a Leupold, even at the same price point. But this does good enough, and it has a really fine crosshair or reticle, really fine crosshair that I'm a huge fan of. So I'm leaving it on there. This is probably gonna be the final hunting setup. But I wanna go over the second range trip that I had. I finished shooting this stuff. If you guys will recall from the first range trip, what I did was, and this target's got holes all in it, but we're gonna focus on just a handful of them. I had stripped the barrel down to bare metal, cleaned it really well to the point where nothing else was coming out of the barrel before I shot anything through it, and decided to get some of this stuff to establish a baseline of kind of expectation of performance, I guess we'll say, with factory ammunition. And this stuff's supposed to be pretty good, so that's why I chose it. It's 147 grain ELD match, right? This is supposed to be some pretty good stuff. Went with that, figured it'd probably give us a really good chance of shooting some decent groups right off the bat with factory ammunition. After I completely scrubbed and cleaned the barrel, these are the first 5 shots here. This is just a foul in the barrel, so they're numbered in the order of the shots that took place, where they hit on the paper. My point of aim was here. Made a scope adjustment, and then I shot a 5-shot group. That was the first kind of, I guess if you want to call it 5-shot group for record, right? Or however you want to word that. And so yeah, 1/2 inch, a little over. Really good, was really pleased with that. And then I shot some other stuff on that range day, ended up having to call it quits, ran out of time, couldn't shoot the last 10 shots. Went back on a separate range trip, and that was yesterday. And so this was the third, I guess actually the second 5-shot group for record, the third 5-shot group out of that box. And that came in, it was somewhere like maybe a 0.6 something, 0.7. I can't remember now, I've got it written down somewhere, but pretty good 5-shot group there. And then the last 5-shot group was this guy. Kind of had whatever, this weird setup going on, had 3 off to the right, 2 pretty similar to what we saw up here. And that is one thing, I did make a scope adjustment down after I had shot kind of this group. I went on to shoot a couple of other 6.5 loads, some hand loads, some 10-shot groups, and I made a scope adjustment down. So that's where we hit on the second range trip. Same thing here, we just had 3 come out to the right. But that, yeah, so that ended up being like right at an inch, just a hair under 1 inch. And these were all shot at 100 yards. So really happy with that performance. I mean, we shot 5 to foul in the barrel, and then 3 5-shot groups after that with this stuff, and all 3 groups came in under an inch. Really happy with that. Now, on the velocity side of the house, it is factory ammunition, so it's not going to be stellar. The SD was 21. Now, what I did was I went back, took all 20 shots, and then did the SD for the 20 shots total, and then, you know, gathered, obviously, the extreme spread, all that fun stuff. So the average was 2660 across 20 shots, and remember, these are 2 different range trips on 2 different days, 10 on one, 10 on the other. But the average was 2660, SD of 21, extreme spread of 77. So not bad at all for factory ammunition. That's probably kind of on the better end of what you could expect, some factory ammunition. I mean, once you get down into the teens, that's probably about as good as you're going to see on the factory side of the house. So obviously you can improve that by hand loading, but just to kind of give you guys a point of reference. Now, I did go ahead and load up, like I said, I'd shot those 2 10-shot groups, one with the Spear Gold Dot 140 grain and one with a Spear Impact. I had some rounds left over, or I had some brass left over, so I went ahead and loaded up some other stuff, and I was only able to shoot some of that on the second range trip. So I shot 6, loaded up 6 of these. These are the 129 grain Hornady interlock. Loaded that up with 45 grains of Winchester stay ball 6.5. I went back and was looking at my notes on some of the previous 6.5 testing I had done, and I've tried 6.5 stay ball in the past, or stay ball 6.5, however you want to say it. I've tried that in the past. I've never really given it, I guess, a good shakedown on, you know, really trying to wring out as much accuracy as possible, and doing sort of a wide test in terms of bullets and charge weights and seating depth and all of that fun stuff. I haven't really done that. It's been more or less, hey, like I did in the past, it was a 129 grain interlock, tested, you know, 5 or 6 different charge weights. They all shot, kind of mediocre, good enough to go kill a deer with, which is all I care about. And so then I left it at that, and I never really pursued anything beyond that, right? Because I already had loads that were shooting pretty well. So I wanted to go back and just pick whatever load shot the best out of my previous stay ball testing, load it up, and then come and shoot it with the new barrels. So I had some random quantities of brass left over. So I had 6 pieces left. And so I loaded up those 129 grain interlocks. That's what this group is here. It's a 2-inch group. So pretty ugly there. These were actually the first 5. And then the 6th shot was over here to the right. So if I would have just shot a 5-shot group, you know, I'd have walked away and been like, oh, that was not terrible, but not really good either. Definitely much better than a 2-inch group, but the 6th shot went there. It's all good because, again, even a 2-inch group, I can go kill deer at the distances that I shoot or that I hunt. So not a big deal. One thing that was nice to see, though, was the 28.58 on the velocity. That was the average for the 6 shots. Now that's moving on pretty good. We were at 45 grains, so almost at the book max. If you go to the Hornady manual, the book max is 45.5 grains, and you should be getting 28.50 according to Hornady. Obviously, just use this as a point of reference. But we were out there at it, and we had some pretty good pressure signs. The primers were getting cratered pretty badly, so I would not pursue this load anymore at all. I'm actually thinking about running more of a test with this bullet and powder combination, but dropping it down maybe, you know, anywhere from that 42 to 44 grain or 42 to 43.5 grain charge weight range, and just see how it shoots, right? Maybe dropping the charge weight down, maybe we can find some better accuracy, sacrifice a little bit of velocity, that's fine. This bullet's gonna do extremely well. Again, even down maybe around 2650, 2700, this bullet's gonna do really well at the distances that I'm shooting, which is within 200 yards. So that's not a problem at all, but it would be nice to see if we could drop it down, tighten up that accuracy, precision, group size, just a little bit. So that was the 129. I did shoot 5. I had loaded up 10 of these guys. These are the Hornady 160 grain round nose interlock. I really like this bullet in 6.5 Creedmoor. I think it does a really good job, gives you a really heavy for caliber option. And loaded up 10 of those. I'd shot some of that in the past with H4350 and had really good results in terms of accuracy or precision and group size. And I actually killed a deer with that load. That's 40 grains of H4350. And I killed a doe with that. Doe is probably about 100 yards away, maybe a little longer. She ran off about 40 yards, piled up, complete pass through. Bullet did its job. Where's that group? Oh, so that's this group here, shot 5. I was planning on shooting 10, but again, I just ran out of time. I was wanting to do a 10-shot group just like I did up here with these guys, but I just absolutely ran out of time because I was also shooting 270 Winchester, 30 TC, 25-06, and I was trying to get through a lot of testing. Just kind of ran out of time at the range, but you can see here 1.241 inches on the 5-shot group. Not bad at all. Definitely more than capable of getting the job done. And our velocity was 24.45. So really not that bad when you go over and look. Again, using this as a point of reference when you're looking at the 160 and the Hornady manual with H4350, right? 40.6 grains is their max charge. We were at 40, and they're, you know, the velocity they're calling out there is 2,500. So we're not that far off from there. We're pretty much on par with what they were showing in their manual. So really good stuff there. Yeah, just all around pretty good performance so far. I haven't even really gotten into load development or anything like that for this new rifle setup. So really looking forward to that. This is just some Lapua, probably 10 times fired now at this point, brass, that I'm still kind of burning through and testing loads that had worked well in the past for other 6.5 Creedmoors. So this stuff that I'm going to be testing coming up, and I will clean the barrel. That way, you know, people don't freak out between the, oh, you're going from jacketed bullets over to monolithic and you didn't clean your barrel, and haven't you seen the backfire video, and didn't you go listen to Ron Spomer? Yep, did, tested that. Didn't see any meaningful difference in the cartridge I tested it in. Not saying it's not a thing, but just from my experience, haven't really seen that just yet. This could be the gun that we see it in. So we're gonna avoid that by just stripping this barrel back down to bare metal and then starting over with the testing of the solid copper stuff. So I've got some McGuire ballistics. These are the 125 grain copper rose hollow point, and then the Barnes 127 grain LRX. Now these are loaded up with stay ball, and I didn't really test stay ball. This is not a previously shot load, so this is really just more of a how will this shoot in this new setup. And so what I did was, these are 41 grains, and these are 44, and then 41 and 44. So, you know, again, this was just a random amount of brass I had left over that was already processed and primed and ready to be loaded. And so I'm just testing, you know, 3 grains apart on the powder charge, just to get an indication of whether or not this bullet powder combination is going to even be worth pursuing, right? So that's what I'm doing there. Now these 6 right here, these are a previously shot load, a tested load. And these are the Barnes 120 grain tip TSX. So these guys, this is 45, I believe. I think it's 45 grains of stay ball. So I'm gonna give those a shot. Same thing, just like the 129, it'll be a 6-shot group. And then once I get all that done, I still have some Berger 135 grain classic hunters that are loaded up that I need to run through and finish out those as well. So that's what's coming in the future. I just got to have more time to get out to the range and actually finish all that. So, but that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm extremely happy actually with how this barrel is shooting so far. Once we fouled it up, I now have, I think, 51 rounds. Yeah, I believe I have 51 rounds down the barrel now. Really happy with how it's shooting. Obviously, it really likes this 147 grain ELD match bullet, and I've got a couple of hundred of those, but don't really plan on loading them just because that's not what this setup is intended for. This is strictly for hunting purposes. I mean, I might load some of them up, but yeah, I don't know. Don't hold your breath. But all right, guys, that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time. Y'all have a good one.